I'm Jason Cheverton. I am one of the vice presidents at Lone Wolf Technologies. Does anybody know who Lone Wolf is? This is why we need to rebrand. Okay. We are the largest technology provider to the residential real estate industry. Again, reason for rebranding. You should all know who we are. Most of you might know us by our flagship product, which is BrokerWolf. It's the back office accounting platform used by the vast majority of brokerages across North America. And then over the last several years, we've actually moved into the agent space, traditionally run by the transaction management platforms through a couple of acquisitions. One of those was Instinet, used by about 600,000 agents in Eastern the United States and all of Canada. And then the ZipForm product, which you guys all use, I believe, in Indiana, NAR member benefit, and used by another 600,000 agents across the United States. So today I want to talk a little bit about the investment that we're making in ZipForm specifically to make your jobs a lot easier, a lot more efficient. I hate to use the word streamlined because it's a buzzword that everyone overuses, but that's effectively what we're trying to do. Is there a clicker? There we go. So Marketplace. What we are aiming to do with this is our vision of basically taking every tool, every service, every platform, every third party, whatever it is that you need to do in order to effectively close a transaction, do your jobs, right, drive efficiency, but put it into one place. There is a ton of tech in this industry. It's probably the most heavily invested industry right now in the world, right? Prop tech everywhere, real estate tech is everywhere. By nature of what you do, you are meant to be found, right? Your phone number, your email address, everything is all over the internet, otherwise you wouldn't have a business. It also means that your profession, the realtor profession, is the most sold to group in the world, right? If you think about it, I don't know how many phone calls or emails you get a day from someone trying, try this new tech platform, try this, don't worry, it's free. It's overwhelming. And you don't really have time to do the research and see what's good. The reality is there's a lot of really great tech out there. There's also a lot of garbage. Again, we're a marketplace, not a garage sale. We don't want to just pack everything in there that could potentially provide value. So what we do is we've taken the time as a technology leader to curate all those new technologies. Go out there, speak with these folks, understand the technology, understand what they're trying to do, what's the pain point they're solving for you folks, for the agents who are our customers. And then work with them in a thoughtful way to integrate those technologies into our platform because you're already there. You're already using it. You have to use my product. You have to create forms, you have to use e-signature. We have those license agreements. You don't have to use their platform, so this enables it to bring it inside to where you already are today to make your life a lot easier. We're not selling you anything, right? And I think that's an important distinction here. These other vendors generally are trying to sell you something, but we've already sold you, right? Your AOR or IAR in this case, NAR, is already paying us for the product. They're paying it at a large level, and you guys all benefit from that. What we do is we use our size, we use our leverage. We go out to the marketplace, we find great partners, we bring them in-house, and then we negotiate either free or heavily discounted rates for you. We just want to keep you in ZipForm. We want to keep you happy. So it's more of an enhancement of functionality release than it is putting stuff in front of you that you have to go out and pay for and generate additional revenue for us. That's not the purpose of this. Why do we do it? This is why we do it. So 1.4 million agents across North America, over 7 million homes sold. We include Canada in that because we are very big up north. We touch 80% of all transactions in North America, right? So 1.2 million agents log into our system, 600,000 of them in the ZipForm platform, and about 5 million homes that are sold across North America are written in our system, which means two things. One, we're in a unique position to actually drive innovation and to move this industry forward. I think we can all agree it's been lacking from a technical perspective relative to some of the other markets for a long time. Two is if we don't do this, then we're doing a disservice to real estate because we effectively harbor the amount of all the transactions in the industry, so we are single-handedly holding it back. If everyone is using our product and we are not innovating, then we are holding back the industry. So it's almost incumbent on us to start looking forward to see how we can enable the agents to do their jobs better and effectively compete with what Greg was just talking about, right? Which is there's a lot of competition out there. So as leaders in this marketplace, we want to be leaders of innovation. And we've put a ton of investment into ZipForm, and particularly in what we're trying to do in terms of integrations to make your life a heck of a lot easier than it is today. This is how we view the transaction in the lone wolf world. And it is almost intentionally convoluted because it is a convoluted industry, but I think it does represent the complexity of what you folks do every single day. So we look at what we do as kind of the core. It's a little self-serving, but we sit in the middle. But if you think about from the second that someone clicks on a listing in Zillow and it comes into your CRM system, so you are now, you're managing listings, what we call the pre-transaction portion of the transaction, through to the offer. You've got CRM tools, you've got websites, you've got showings, you have lock boxes. We were talking about SentryLock, lead generation, CMA tools, digital marketing, right, to put your listings out there. All of these different tools and services are all things you need to interact with outside of our system, but it needs to be done in order to do your job. We then move into the core of it, which is the actual transaction itself, right? Forms, e-signature, transaction management, checklists, all that good stuff. This is what we do. This is what we've been very good at for 20, 25 years. And then we go into what we call the post-transaction or the closing portion, right? Where mortgage needs to get completed, home warranty, inspection, title orders have to be done, escrow money needs to move. We're going to talk to Earnnest in a little bit. Insurance. This is a lot of stuff. This is like 30 different applications that you need to log into, 30 different websites, 30 different tools, whatever it may be. And it's also re-entering the same information over and over and over again every time you need to do this. That's so much work to close one home. And this is stuff, getting back to what Greg's talking about, using AI, machine learning, all these tools that large technology companies have, they can do all of this in a second. And so the only way to maintain the traditional real estate model is to put those tools in your hands because they exist. There's a lot of great companies out here that do this, but put them into one place so you can access them. We interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of agents when we were building this out. We wanted to understand pain points. We wanted to understand where the efficiency breakdowns were across the kind of transaction continuum or the transaction experience, and then how we could go out and we could fix those with partnerships. We can't build or buy everything as much as we'd love to. Partnerships is sometimes the better avenue for us to get you what you need. And so disconnected systems was one of the largest complaints that we had, right? Which is I'm re-entering the same data everywhere in all these different systems, and they really only need a couple data points. They either need to know my information, the transaction information, or the consumer's information. It's pretty much it, right? This isn't rocket science, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. And as you re-enter stuff, you make mistakes. When we make mistakes, we get poor client experience. So what ends up happening at the end of the day is you maybe make a mistake in one system so that your consumer gets a bad experience. Maybe that costs you a referral. Or we're forcing consumers into an archaic process that they believe should have been modernized a long time ago, and therefore they're just not happy with the service. And we'll use Earnest Money Deposit as a great example. I'm a consumer. I'm not a realtor. And I bought a home in Dallas last year. And this is a true story. I had to fly across the country to drop off my Earnest Money Deposit check because I could not wire that money to my title holder or to the escrow holder. That's insane. As a consumer, I Venmo my buddy $10 every time we go out for dinner. Why can't I apply that same technology to real estate, right? We can close companies in 10 days. Like we can do acquisitions in 10 days. I can't close a home in 30. It's insane that we can't buy something that's that small of an asset relative to the size of the assets in the market that we can move. And it still takes that long. So a bad customer experience, when you make me as a consumer to have to go pick up a physical check and go drop it off at a title office, it is going to cost you referrals. And whether everyone does it or you're able to provide a special experience, which is what we're trying to do here, I think has a downstream effect. And then ultimately we get missed opportunity, and this is what we hear. Either we miss an opportunity because we missed a referral because they weren't happy with the process, messed up data or bad experience, or the agent misses opportunities because they're spending so much time doing this re-entry over and over and over again. And it's not like you can avoid it. You have to order title, you have to get insurance, you have to get home warranties. You don't have to, 84% of homes get home warranties. And at the end of the day, you are the #1 source of information to your agents. I know that when I bought my home, I don't have a title provider. I don't know who does home warranties. My agent told me everything, every single thing. I even got a CA from them to help me with my taxes. Nothing to do with real estate, but they became my trusted source. So the easier you are able to provide that information, and the easier you are able to kick that process off for them, the better you're going to be as an advisor, and the easier it's going to be to do your jobs. So what is in our marketplace? The way that we approach this, taking all that information from all the agents that we spoke with, was we're going to go breadth, not depth first. So that is, at every single key stage in the transaction, we want to make sure that we've got a solution to help you, right? So from taking the first click in your lead gen, whether you're using KB Core or Boomtown or Real Estate Webmasters or any of the major property bases out there, that data is going to flow directly into our system. And what we believe in is single source of truth, which means that data should never be manipulated again, and it should just get added to along that process and then moved out to all the other services that you provide. So in this case, you would get the core consumer, and then you would get the transaction details. And then the BLC is going to pull in additional data, right? That's going to populate your zip form. And then we share that data with your permission to the different services that you want in order to provide those services back to you, either yourself or your consumer. So web CRM, lead gen, showings, title, home inspections, moving services, all of this stuff is available today in zip form in various beta stages. Many of these are in your market today. Almost all of them are entirely free. There's going to be obvious exceptions to that. If you're going to purchase a digital package through AdWorks, it's not free. We might get you a discounted rate for it. But there are ones like Updater, for example, which I think it's really caught on. A lot of people are using Updater as a moving concierge service for their agents, or sorry, for their consumers. It's $150 a year for an agent individual account, and in Zip it's free. You don't have to pay anything. Just go there, click the button, and you can use it. And we negotiated that into our contract with Updater. So these will continue to grow. We'll continue to add more options within the categories and get a little bit deeper because everyone has preferred suppliers. But ultimately, what we're trying to create is a single source of what I say buttons that you can just press, and then that information flows. You're able to provide those services, and then a lot of the time the information actually comes back into Zip as well, which we'll show you today with Earnnest. I'm going to pass it over to Chris, although I will pause for a second. Is there any questions? Yeah.
So Dotloop is not one?
Dotloop is a competitor of ours. So they obviously owned by Zillow, and they do their own thing with forms where they kind of do this OCR weird technology for it. They have their own integrations, but a little bit different than the way we're approaching it. I think, and it's a good question because a lot of people ask, what are you doing? How is this different than Slope or Dotloop and all these folks do it? So there's really two things. One is that we only choose very, very good partners, and everyone always says that, but our belief is that if you go to our marketplace, you use a partner, you have a bad experience, you're never coming back. So we're heavy in on technology and making sure that the integrated solution and the experience is great. The second is, we don't just do the table stakes stuff that everyone does. Everyone is going to integrate to a front office CRM product. Everyone's going to integrate to a back office product. Great, we do that. But not many are out there doing home inspection automation or investing in earnest money deposit. We're doing innovative stuff with a lot of startups as well. We prove out their tech, we know they're great, but we've got an entire team that does nothing but go out in the marketplace, curate offerings, find great partners, and kind of push the envelope of innovation versus just doing what everyone else is doing. So, longer answer than Dotloop, but
That was good.
they are not us. Yeah.
Can I just comment that
Yeah.
I really appreciate that all this stuff, or most of it, is free and just integrated into the zip forms that we already pay for through NAR and through IAR. I
Right.
just really appreciate having that integration with something that we're already using as a member benefit at no cost to us. That's really helpful.
Great, yeah. And that's, again, as a large player in the market, we're able to leverage that on behalf of you. I mean, we're only large because you folks pay us at a large level. So we're able to do that. And the biggest thing, I think, just kind of back to the same thought in terms of experience, is if you go to most partner pages, I call them the partner graveyard, because everyone signs up partners and then they never talk to them again. And you click on Earnnest, it brings you to earnest.com. That's not a partnership, right? You're still having to log in somewhere differently. You're still having to go out and research and purchase the service, pay full price. That's not what we're trying to do. It's you click the button and it comes to you, right? It embeds it in Zip. You can use their service within our application. It's free. It's SSO. It's single sign-on. It's moving data. That is a good experience. That is a partnership. So there's a lot of technology that goes on behind the scenes. We're not just signing people up and putting their website on top of our application. So it's a huge focus of what we're trying to do. And we're going to actually demo that today with how we now do earnest money deposits inside of our system in 2 minutes, as opposed to, I don't know, took me 3 days to do mine. So,
Thanks. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Chris with Earnnest, super excited to share our integration with ZipLogix. It's actually our first time sharing this with an association group like this, so appreciate Angie and Nicole having us in. What is Earnnest? Well, we are a financial technology company. We solely focus on moving money in a completely digital way. So a good kind of baseline, simple way of looking at us is we are like Venmo for real estate. We allow home buyers to electronically transfer their funds straight from their bank account into your escrow holder or brokerage's trust account. Earnnest is just a secure conduit between those two accounts. But we are going to be layering on layers of security, transparency, as well as something that's extremely convenient. So those those three items I just mentioned, we'll be diving in and taking a look at it through the demo. The first one being, of course, convenience. So let's take a look at currently what you guys are going through for an EMD deposit with your buyers. Now, we work nationwide, so I know there are some nuances from state to state on how this is handled. But most of the time, for an earnest money deposit, that buyer, you're going to be asking them to write a paper check, or you're going to be wiring the funds in. So in this scenario, this is a lot of our partners used to do this is, hey, you're under contract, congrats, let's get the earnest money deposited. You have like 24 hours to complete that. So the home buyer is going to write a check. You're either going to ask them to drive that into the title company or drive it into your office if you're holding it. So you need to coordinate a time to meet with them, or you're going to ask them to drive it all the way in. Once they get to your office, they're going to drop that check off. Many times the feedback is they drop it off with the admin at the front desk. They have no idea what property it's for. It's just a check on their desk that then they have to scan a photocopy of it, associate it to a contract, and then write a physical receipt out to the home buyer. Next, that office has to drive it to the escrow to get it deposited into their account. The bank then has to write another receipt that they received it, and then you're having to pay for it, and then you have to wait for it to clear. And at that point, the check could bounce, right? It could be insufficient funds. And they had to start this process all over again. So this is the journey that we see a lot of our partnerships going. They're on this journey together with their buyer, and it's super hard for you guys to make this an enjoyable, easy experience, right? That's like one of your main jobs is building a very trustworthy relationship and providing your buyer with a really awesome, easy home buying experience. So now, this is the new experience that we're going to be offering you guys through ZipForm Plus. This is the new journey, the new path that we are going nationwide with, and that is like Venmo. Jason mentioned he requests, $10 pizza split. Well, now an agent through ZipForm Plus, you can request earnest money deposit from your buyer. You can request it straight from that platform. Your buyer is going to get what we call a payer link, and it's a secure two-step authorization link that they're going to get via text message and email. They'll log in, they'll select which account they want to transfer the money out of, and that'll get transferred right into your escrow holder or your brokerage's trust account. When we talk about transparency, the receipts for all, that is where we start with a very transparent way of moving money. Instead of like a wire transfer where you're giving instructions and they have to call in to get the last 4 digits, and then there's a red letter saying don't get spammed and you're scaring everyone to death. Our conduit between that buyer's bank account and the trust account, along with moving that money, we're also going to move all of those important transaction details to you and to the escrow holder and the buyer. So the transaction details I'll show you here in a moment, but it's going to include the property address, who the buyer is, who is the agent that requested it, the amount of the earnest money deposit, a unique tracing ID number, as well as the last 4 digits of the originating account and the destination account that you can pass along to your lender. and now your lender's not calling you up saying, hey, did your buyer pay their earnest money deposit? Did they get that in? We provide that all with the movement of money, all right there in an easy-to-read receipt for you that will send it to the agent, we'll send it to the buyer, and we'll send it to whoever is holding that earnest money deposit. So I'll get into the nuts and bolts of it right now. Let's walk through exactly, hey, how do you request an EMD from your buyer through ZipForms? And then what's the experience like for your buyer? So I'll pull that up. Any questions on that piece right now?
Yes. Have you thought about adding the listing agent as one of the receipt?
Listing agent on the receipt, yes. What you can do is you can include them in on the receipts if you would like. Many times, if it's a listing agent state like it is here, the buyer agent or the buyer and the escrow holder they all get those receipts, or whoever is doing the requesting. So the listing agent through the flow could do the requesting, or the buyer agent could do the requesting through there as well, and they just share the receipts with the other agent in that transaction.
But what I'm hearing is I'm going to have to turn around as the buyer's agent who's requesting this of my seller, of my buyer, to then email this receipt to the listing agent to show that it's been done.
Yeah, in that scenario, yeah, whoever is not doing the requesting, the realtor, either that realtor or the buyer or that brokerage that receives those receipts will have to, they can share it with.
So that's part of my question is, have you thought about adding the listing agent?
Right.
So we don't
Yeah.
have, that's just one more step.
Yeah,
that
that's
we have to
definitely,
do.
no. Thankfully, this is, when we're going through this flow, it's awesome, but it's also our MVP, right, the V1. And so we're going to rely on you guys as you're interacting with it and playing with it and seeing these requests, to write into Jason's team and say, hey, this functionality, I like this, but have you thought about this? So that's how we rely on building a better
Adding
product,
that's,
is feedback.
That's all of like 5 minutes of coding, so
Yeah.
it's a good idea. Or adding anyone, right? If you
Right.
wanted to, yeah. Yeah, we've got all that information in the system, right? Because they're a party on that
Exactly,
transaction. It's already in
exactly.
Zip, so you can just choose them. Yeah.
Yeah, very easy piece to include and add on that one. Yeah, really good point. So this should look familiar to you guys. Oh, another question, I'm sorry.
So is this process once the offer is accepted? So when we put in an offer, are we still have to, get a check, take a picture, submit it with the offer? So this process comes after. Is that
I love it.
correct?
I love the point that you're bringing up right
We were
now,
just talking
because
about
we literally just talked about this last week. We're going to be including what we call a proof of intent, which is that photocopy of a paper check. So when you're going in here for the first time, let's do this one because it says my board. That happened by accident. No. Yeah, so when you're first interacting with this is when you're making an offer, right? So what we're going to add into this, because to your point right now, this would be something you do after it's under contract. So what do you do for the offer? We're going to be including in here that proof of intent or that photocopy of a paper receipt that you can just download as like a PDF, and you can send that in with your offer. And then once it's accepted, they'll see that it's it's good funds and it's funds come. Then you can
So
go back in
it
here.
won't be the actual, which you won't need anymore. You don't need the picture of the check.
Correct.
It's replacing that.
Correct. It is taking the place of your traditional photocopy of a paper check. Yeah, and we're going to be including that right here on this platform for you guys as well. So let's say then in this scenario, it's under contract. Yay, everyone's excited. It's time to get your buyer's earnest money into the trust account. So under the summary here, there's pretty much 3 pieces of information that we'll need for you to send that earnest money request, and it's nothing outside of what you are already inputting. For the most part, it's going to be the property address right here, right? And then your buyer, make sure you have your buyer. So here's Bob Basinger, my alter ego. First, last name, email, and cell phone number. That's all we'll need from the buyer. And then, of course, your initial deposit amount, which is your EMD, your earnest money. That's all we'll need. So once you have those 3 inputs, you'll go to the Partners tab here within this transaction, specific property, hit Partners. Now, when you first use our tool, we'll be under the Available tab right here, but once you use us for the first time, we'll immediately be under your Actively Used. So we'll be super easy to find
Are those
there.
items automatically auto-filled in there since we've already filled out an offer that says the earnest money is $5,000? Should that already be I mean, it should already appear in there, right?
Absolutely, check it out. You're
Yeah,
editing.
Zip has a two-way sync, so everything that's put into the form itself will populate into that summary screen and vice versa.
So we don't need to fill that out with RDB.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's missing for some reason, you have to put it, but anything that's there will automatically populate to, yeah.
Yeah, so here's your requested payment. So to your point, here is your buyer who's paying. Here's your buyer's information populated, the earnest money amount, and the property address that it's for. The only thing that's left to do is you need to select who is holding that earnest money deposit. So what we call this is our like smart search filter, meaning we're only going to show you the trust accounts available in the state that this property is closing in. So this is South Carolina, this is where I'm from. So when you go to search here, the only available trust accounts you'll be able to search for is going to be in South Carolina. We're not going to show you a whole list. Another great feature is once you start typing in who you want this earnest money to go to, we'll kind of show you those immediately, kind of like on Netflix. So mine right now is going to be ABC Law. So if I go AB, it's going to show me, boom, immediately, ABC Law. So this is where I want the money to go to, so I'll click ABC Law. Confirm that that's correct, and we'll hit request. Boom. You're done. So right when you guys hit request, we'll generate out a text message and an email to your buyer requesting that they pay their earnest money deposit. So I just got a text on my phone. Bob, you've been requested by Chris Basin to pay $5,000 earnest money for 123 North Main Street, Greenville, South Carolina. So your buyer will get that text message, and then they're also going to receive an email, which is going to look like this. Here we go. Pay earnest money for this property. So your buyer is going to open up their email. Now, there's no sensitive information on this email. There's nothing like wire transfers. You know, you guys, the way that fraud happens is phishing on an email, right? They wait for instructions where to change everything. You won't find this here at all. This is just a generic, hey, that we'll give them your contact information, your name, the property address, and the amount they need to transfer. It's pretty much just an invitation to our secure network to make that payment happen. So the buyer's going to hit pay earnest money. Once they do that, we're going to put them through a two-step verification process. So the buyer is going to put their email, input their email address. Once they input the email, we are going to text them a 4-digit security code. And they'll log in. The first thing that buyer's going to need to do is confirm the information that you input is accurate. So, hey, this is the property that you're under contract with. Cool. Here's where you're sending your earnest money deposit to, ABC Law, and here's the amount that you'll be transferring over. So if that looks good for your buyer, you're going to click this is correct. And this is going to lead them to what we call the buyer hub, where there's two main actions that the buyer needs to go through. We're going to confirm their identity, and then they're connect their funding source. So here again, this is me, Bob Basinger. Here's the escrow holder or the brokerage holding that earnest money deposit. Here's the amount I'll be transferring, and here's the processing fee. So this is the only way we monetize our services, is through that processing fee of $15 that is charged to your buyer. So there's no charge to your brokerage or to you or to your title company or whoever's holding that earnest money deposit. It's just a flat $15 fee. So we're talking like half the cost of a wire, about the same or cheaper than a cashier's check. So you can transfer as much as you want for earnest money. That $15 fee will never change. So to get started, let's confirm that buyer's identity. We're going to go in. Again, we'll auto-fill the information that was already input. So that buyer just needs to put the last four of their social, their date of birth, and their current residence. So we've got 1, 2, 3, Greenville. So once they put that in, they'll agree to the terms and services, click submit. And this check that we're running on them, it takes that fast. This isn't a financial credit check. This is just a confirming their identity. So we're going to run this as all public records. So if they have a passport, we'll check that. We'll check their current residence, of course, as well as their driver's license. So there's just a general credit on their identity. There's nothing financial here that we're doing. So once that's completed, they'll link their checking account or any bank account that they have. Anyone here use like Venmo, Zelle, that type of thing? Perfect. So this is the exact same flow that you go through when you're setting up your Venmo account. Same as Plaid. This is our service layer provider that empowers us on this piece. So they'll hit continue. We let them know that this is who we use to verify their bank account. They'll click continue. And here they're simply just going to search for their banking partner. We work with every bank in the United States. So federal credit unions, local banks, the big major players, they're going to find them here. They can scroll down through, or they can start typing in their bank. And again, it's a smart search. So as soon as they start typing in their bank, we'll show that to them as well. So then let's say Bank of America. Now, important to note here, this is Bank of America's login screen. They are not taking these actions within our platform. We do not store nor do we see this buyer's login credentials. We simply make what we call a tokenized API call to their bank, and their bank interfaces with ours. So that's their bank login screen. We just overlay it on top of our platform. So that makes it extremely secure. Because let's say, for whatever reason, I got hacked or our system got hacked, I'd be breaking into an empty vault because we don't store their banking information, their login credentials, and then all of our pre-verified trust accounts that are registered with us. We don't store that either. All we simply do is make tokenized, meaning one-time API calls. And for layman's terms, we pull back the curtain, look at the account, make sure they have the money, pull exactly what we need, and then we leave it alone. And that allows us to not store any of those sensitive banking information. To Renee's point earlier today, he talked about, hey, it's your data, you own it. We do the same thing with your brokerage's trust account and your title company's trust account and your buyers. We don't store it, we don't see it, we just simply make API calls, look and see and transfer. Any questions on that piece at all? I know that's usually a good one. Cool. All right, so your buyer's going to log into their bank account like they normally do. So let's do this. So we'll log into Bank of America. And here they're going to they're just going to transfer the funds out of the account that they wish to. So checking, savings. If they have other accounts they want to select from, they can go ahead and do that. So let's say it's Platinum Checking. Go ahead and continue. Once they hit continue, it'll lead them right back to this buyer hub. And here they see that, okay, identity's been confirmed. I've connected my bank account. They'll click Pay Earnest Money. As soon as they click that, we will show them, hey, congratulations, you've paid your earnest money. And we'll tell them like the next steps. Hey, we've emailed you a summary of the payment. That's the payment receipt I mentioned earlier. And we'll let them know that it's also been emailed out to the escrow holder and to their agent. And so your buyer is all done. As soon as they hit pay, another great thing is your payment receipt is actually going to come straight to your documents within this transaction here. So you go to documents, bam, here's your receipt right here. Open it up. Here's payment receipt for this specific property, payment overview. I'm going to say amount paid, the processing fee of $15. Now, the trust account will never show $5,015. The trust account will only show this amount right here, the $5,000. This is just, again, our processing fee that goes straight to us, and this goes into the trust account. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the date paid, who the buyer is, the originating account, destination account, the receiver of this. And by the way, when we're showing the originating account and destination account, we'll only show the last 4 digits of each. In our system, as I mentioned earlier, we never show full account and routing numbers. For security purposes, we don't ever store that. Transfer type, ACH. So when I was talking earlier about we move money completely digitally, we run on the rails of ACH. Now, traditional standard ACH, there's always been concerns around, there's long pullback periods of like 60 days. With our system, we have a proprietary way of using ACH network that allows us to, as soon as the buyer's funds transfer out of their account, there is no chargeback pullback periods at all. As soon as it leaves, it goes into the trust account. Those are good funds that cannot be pulled back from the buyer or that bank. which is great. And another great feature about this product is as soon as that buyer hits pay and you get this receipt, those are good funds because we've actually verified the amount in their bank account for you. So that way, like when someone cashes like a paper check, sometimes you wait a little bit and you'll see other insufficient funds. With our system, if you get this receipt, you know those funds are in the buyer's account because we double checked it and confirmed it before completing that transfer over. So it's a great feature. So here's the receipt for you guys, all right in your ZipForm Plus platform. So you can request it, you'll get notified via email, and then you'll also get this receipt straight to your platform as well. I can show you guys next how to, let's say in that scenario, you go to request earnest money, but you do not have, your preferred escrow holder in there. You don't have like your brokerage trust account, say. So if we go back in, go to partners, you see here it says send EMD. Well, let's say ahead of time, before you even need to request this, what we encourage folks to do is go ahead and invite your escrow holder and get them registered. Because that's the, obviously if you don't have anywhere to send the EMD, you won't be able to use the product. So the invitation was very, very simple as well. Let's pop back over and take a look at that. And you know what, before I run you guys through on how to send that invite, any questions on this flow? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, I have one on the identity. I know this is a
Yeah.
sample, but I heard you say you'll check the passport, the driver's license.
Mhm.
So you can do that based on their name and their birth date and their email address?
Yeah, so when they were going through the identity confirmation piece,
Right,
there's the
right.
last four, their social, and their date of birth.
All that, I didn't see, I can remember the last four of the social. Okay.
Yeah, last four of the social, date of
Yes.
birth.
Okay, got it.
Yep, and we'll run
Okay.
that instantaneously check.
Keep going, I got it.
Yeah, good. No, absolutely. Any, yes?
I saw on the previous page it says set due date. So earnest money is time sensitive. When you set a due date and it emails the client, does that tell them, hey, you need to have it done by this time?
Yeah, as soon as you request that earnest money from that buyer and the buyer clicks pay, that's the date that they pay there. Because normally you have 48 hours to get it in, to get that
But
check
will
in.
let them know?
Yeah, it will show them the date that was requested from them. So the closing date, the date that went under contract, is that generally when that clock starts for you guys? Yeah, so that's the date that will automatically show them, is the date that you requested it from them.
But will it remind them within that time frame that they haven't clicked send the money? Is that what you're
That's our
asking?
job.
Yeah.
That's our
So-
job.
Yeah, we won't remind them.
If it tell them to get her done.
No, no, we'll send that text message and then email to them, and then there's no other like reminders letting them know about that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. I don't know if it's on, you can hear me. And so CCPA was rolled out obviously in California, which is how we're allowed to engage with consumers. As an organization, we adopted that nationwide, so it's not just California. We think it's going to hit every state, so we may as well make all those adjustments today. And we have very, very strict rules on what we can do to your consumers and your clients, and what our partners can do. So we define that in our contract. So we will say, Earnnest, you're allowed to follow up once with the agent, or you're allowed to follow up twice. So there's certain things that we put in those contracts. So we could probably work in some sort of automated, we'll contact you to remind you type stuff, but that is purposeful done. We don't want to be over engaging unless you tell us we can. And related to that, what we find is whether it's Earnnest or Update or any of our other partners, the frequency or the capture rate that your consumer is going to use that service is predicated on you telling them that it's coming. So if you say, expect Earnnest to come, expect this partner to come, this is a service I use as an extension of my brand, it makes the life easier, all that good stuff, they will use it 80 to 100% of the time. If you don't give them a heads up, they think it's spam, it drops below 40%.
What is the return address that it's coming from? To email address?
Oh, it'll be coming from support, from the Earnnest. So
The
support at Earnnest.
invitation, or the reminder, or the?
Yeah, the request.
The request.
Mhm, the request.
And they'll say support at?
Yes, support at Earnnest. And then in the subject line, it'll say, hey, Earnnest money payment for, they'll give their property. And then with the body of the email, that's when we'll let them know, hey, Chris is requesting that you pay Earnnest money, their agent is requesting that you pay this Earnnest money deposit. Yeah, so we quickly introduce the agent as quickly as possible for them. Yeah, no question. Any other, oh, yes.
On the banking field, you said on the title, it's only going to show you Indiana titles, but on the banking, it's going to show you any banks nationally?
Yeah, any bank nationally,
Okay.
we work with. Yeah, since we've run on the rails of ACH, and it's been around since the 1970s, so it's great. We did that on purpose because there's no integration needed with banks. Everyone already has that network built in, and so yeah, we're available nationwide.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So what about a local bank?
Yeah, small local banks, federal credit unions,
Okay.
regional guys, yep.
I think it was what, 14,000?
Yeah, over 14,000. It's crazy.
We have 5 banks in Canada, so this blows my mind, but yeah, 14,000, I think, options to log in, so.
Yeah.
So if we want to have our buyers start delivering the earnest money through Earnnest, our job right now should probably be to get the escrow account holders to make sure that, because what do they have to do to get qualified to
That's
receive the money?
yeah, that's such a good question. And right now, we encourage, like we were just at, Keller Williams, with all their agents, and the big thing now is, hey, if you want to utilize this tool through ZipForm, you need to make sure that your escrow holder is connected into our network. So right now, we have over 600 title companies, attorneys nationwide in our network. And so for you guys to get access to that tool, yeah, first off, make sure that they are available and connected in our network. So when you go to search, you can actually search who you want to use. And if they're not there, I don't want you to get to the point where, you're ready for the earnest money, the clock is ticking. Oh, shoot, I didn't invite them. Now I need to invite them. And then they need to do the process on their side.
Yeah, because here in Indiana, escrow is occasionally held by title, but still the predominant is held by the brokerage, the listing
Got it.
brokerage.
Yep.
So the brokerages themselves, even if they're a little mom and pop, one shop thing, they would have to.
Yeah, so you as the agent, if your brokerage holds their own earnest money, what you can do is invite like your office administrator or your controller, and they can connect their trust account. Honestly, it's a self-guided registration process. It takes like 5 minutes. There's no integration needed. They connect their organization, and then they put in whatever trust account they would like the EMD to be deposited into. Very, very easy and simple. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it. When is this going to be utilized or taken?
It's live now.
It's there.
live now?
It is.
Yeah.
You open up ZipForm today, that integration will be there, and you can start inviting your escrow holders to it.
And I'm going to bounce in here because I know we're coming up on time. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our BLC Technology Committee just looked at this. We've been, it's kind of been a years-long project of there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a better way to this money deposit situation. That process is just sort of archaic. If you ask me to go find a check from my own accounts, I might have to dig through my house and come up with one. So it's just not as common for people to have paper checks available very easily. Now maybe when you're going through the process of buying a home, you're better prepared than I am. But you have to either get a cashier's check or you have to wire something or you have to come up with some way to deliver that, and none of the solutions are super convenient. So there have been products on the market for a long, long time to kind of bridge this gap, but none of them really hit all the high notes as the technology committee has vetted those through over the last several years. We actually had it on our agenda for 2019 meeting to look at a number of those products again, just take another look, hey, what's developed over the last couple of years since we looked at it the last time. Right after I sent out the meeting notice, the notice from Lone Wolf and ZipLogix came in that said, hey, we're partnering with this new solution. And so we kind of all said, as I said, hold the phone. Maybe we need to take a breath, take a look at this. It's something that's already part of, to your point, part of the solutions that you have as a member benefit. So if we can support that initiative first, that's free, already available, and figure out that process, this isn't going to be an overnight change for you that are walking through the process, because it will take time for brokerage adoption to connect their accounts, to get comfortable with the idea of this method of delivery. So this isn't going to be a snap the fingers and this is the new way that everybody does things. It's also not mandatory. This came up after our meeting last week. We're not saying this is the only way that you may transfer earnest money or deliver earnest money. First of all, we don't have that power. But you have to, as a practitioner, reach a comfort level of what works best for you in your business model. And I had another conversation that this may work for some of your clients who are very tech savvy and very used to, I pay my daughter's lessons with my Zelle, transfer every month. I just hop on there, transfer the money, no big deal. But not everyone is comfortable with that process. So there may be still consumers that say, I'd rather write a paper check and hand that off because that is how I do business. And that's okay too. But we don't want you hamstrung because you don't have options.